Hey folks, it's Kozzi here, just running through another draft, because what better way is there to spend a Thursday afternoon than trying to put together something sweet. Alrighty, so starting off with pack 1. I do quite like the World Pie Phoenix. I'm a fan of playing in red. Red's generally quite aggressive and it doesn't have a lot of flyers, and this is just a very, very powerful card that keeps coming back. And it has a slight inbuilt ability that mitigates flood. So if you're getting a lot of sigils, this card doesn't mind too much. Outside of that, the best that we're really looking at, Twilight Raptors, solid once you know you're in Feln. Otherwise, it's just a handful of commons that are beginning to look interesting. So we'll take the Phoenix and see where we go from there. And following up straight away, it's another very, very good red card. Charchain Flail, especially if we can start to get into Shadow and start to get another Smuggler's Stash. Although I realize I've already done one stash video, this is the kind of card that you'd love to have in it. It's hard removal so long as you have some life to spare, and if we can start to get things that give us some armor, then it becomes even better still. Outside of this, Sharpshooter is good. We'll get the word out eventually. Hatchling is very, very good as well. Valkyrie can be solid if you build around it, but no, for the time being, we'll take the flail and see where we go from there. So this is where I have the chance to start to make some choices. If I want to be looking at something slower, I can pick what are objectively the stronger cards in the pack, being Feeding Time and Lightning Storm, and head in that direction, or I can still take a very, very solid common in Oni Ronin and really try and go for an aggressive deck. And given that I have been past a pretty solid red, I feel as though this is a suggestion that red's definitely being left alone. I haven't seen any green at all that has been interesting come through, so we'll see how we go and try and really push this archetype. Bladekin Apprentice is very, very good in aggressive deck, very good if you get it down early, rubbish any other time. Bold Adventurer I'm a fan of more than others because I feel as though it's just above the curve for 2. A lot of people are playing 2/2s, and once you get that extra point of toughness, you're laughing. I could be going into a token build later on, but I don't want to combust this early. And it's interesting that there's another Twilight Raptor, although it still is very, very early to be picking dual colored cards. So we'll stay on the aggro train and see where it leads us. Lightning Strike is probably the strongest card in the pack, however it doesn't synergize super well with what I'm trying to do. I don't want to be having damage to an attacking enemy because I want to be the one who's the attacking enemy. Out of these, the 2 cards that do work well with what I'm trying to achieve are either Levitate for a cantrip or evasion, or Thornbeast if we're going down the path of tokens and the like. I feel as though this is the more reliable one to be useful for me. It does open me up to a Smuggler's Stash, and so the only reason why I want to do otherwise is because I want to have a variety of videos for the Pick 1 Pack 1 website, but for the time being I'm sure we'll get there eventually, and I'd rather just draft the best deck I can right now. Definitely being rewarded for it. A Rapid Shot is an amazing combat trick in this kind of deck. How aggressive do I want to go? If so, Blood Beetle is okay. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I feel as though it's a playable but nothing better. It's one where a 1/2 will very quickly get outclassed, but if it does manage to connect once, so if you are lucky enough to get it very, very early, or we have some kind of support with evasion, then it does become a 2/2 flyer, which then is worth a card. But before then, I don't think it's quite worth a card in your deck. That being said, I haven't seen any green, so I'm not really tempted to go after the Battle Burr and to try and play Rakano. So I think we'll take the Beetle for now and see where it leads us. It's leading us to Green Pastures. Life Drinker is amazing for getting rid of nuisance blockers, and Granite Acolyte just fits perfectly on plan. And I'm definitely more interested in being red. The thing is, this is an uncommon and I'm very, very unlikely to see another one for the rest of the draft. I think we'll go for the Life Drinker for now. I feel as though I have a chance of seeing those other cards later on. None of this is too exciting. I think the closest thing to playing for me is if I play Time I might be considered, and I'm very happy to be getting a late Rampage. It's great news for me. Ooh. So I think Xin and Obelisk is going to be very, very strong. In fact, many of these cards are. I'm really curious about where RNG would have this ranked. It's one of those cards where the upside is phenomenal, but if you are in a top deck war and you're in trouble, you could get into strife. Just want to quickly check it up and see what we think of it. Yeah, so they've got it right up in the S tier, which is fair. So this puts me on a very interesting decision. I can take a card that's going to be an absolute bomb, especially if I start to go down the token strategies, but I have seen a lot of very open purple cards. This pack is deep for it as well. Ornate Katana is a very, very good card. Runic Revolver is a very good card. Annihilate is a great card as well, and it's hard removal. That being said, this also is only one time, so I could splash for it very easily. Yeah, I think that sells me. I think we'll get that with the aim of splashing. We have another Charchain Flail. Or we have another Thorn Beast. Jeez, these are tough decisions. I want to also just quickly check this other one as well. I feel as though it never hurts to use the resources that we have. So they see the Charchain Flail as an A-. And what about the Thorn Beast? Whoops. The Thorn Beast just as a solid B. So the things that I'm thinking through is this does have a double fire faction requirement, but I am looking at going solid in red. And I don't have tokens yet for Thorn Beast to be the best. Okay. A Dark Return is really nice. A Magma Javelin is solid. Film Stranger is good. But I think I can't really go past a Dark Return. We have another Ronin, which is fantastic news for me. And now we have a little bit of temptation whether I want to be considering splashing into green. The Spider is solid. I find more often than not it trades up, but it's nothing to write home about. Likewise for the Pyrodept, although I do want to be looking at being on curve. And we do have some pretty expensive cards already, or the beginnings of some. Objectively, Field Captain is by far... Well, Ceremonial Mask is also a very powerful card, but out of the ones that I'm realistically contemplating. However, I know for certain that I'm going to be splashing time, so perhaps I'm better off just picking on curve. Yeah, I think I'll try and take the Disciplined, and possibly incorrect pick. Ornamental Daggers are nice, but I think they're better when you're being defensive, so I think we'll take the Guerrilla Fighter, and wow, Flame Blast, as well as a Rapid Shot. This is great for me. I just need to make sure that I do stay dominant on fire, because this is removal wherever I need it, or direct damage for that last little couple of points. So now we have a choice between the Ticking Grenadin and the Scavenging Vulture. I think on the whole the Vulture is a stronger card, but in this archetype, if I had enough Thorn Beasts, the Grenadin could definitely interest me, but I'm not super interested in taking it speculatively. I am, however, very interested in taking Rampage and another Ronin. This deck is beginning to look phenomenal. So, we're halfway through the draft, and what have we got? We've got two very nice pieces of removal, direct damage, a Dark Return, more Ronins than we could ever need, but then again, there's no such thing, we always want more. We have some good combat tricks in the Rapid Shot and the Rampage. We're soft on 2-drops though. I don't really have any 2-drops that I'm in love with. We have a Thorn Beast, which is nice. Some slightly soft top end, or one soft 4-drop, but I'm happy having the Fighter. They're great when you got them on the back foot. You can just keep exhausting and exhausting and exhausting. And then a top end that's definitely impressive. So, what's this? Reliquary Raider. When it attacks, draw a card, or when she blocks, you gain 4 life. She seems very, very good, but it's off color. And I do have 2 quite good options. I feel as though getting the extra Ronin is phenomenal for this deck. Likewise, if I go down a token build, the Channeler becomes very, very good. It turns all of my useless guys into an extra point of reach. However, if I'm serious about my splash, then this could be very, very enticing. However, if I'm splashing 2 cards, I'll definitely be wanting 3, or probably more than 3, probably closer to 4 pieces of fixing. And I haven't seen any yet, so I feel as though that's a tall order. No, I think we'll stay with the Ronin. I could well regret that, but that's where I want to be for now. Obsidian Golem is very nice. It's both a 2-drop and also its effective card advantage because it turns into a piece of equipment which allows me to upgrade one of my redundant small guys. Fighter is good for the same reason I said before. Cloud of Ash is either exceptional or the worst card in my deck. Rakano Stranger opens up fixing, but no, I think I'm most tempted by the Golem. It does have a small synergy going on as well with the Thorn Beast. Lumen Shepherd is enticing, but probably too expensive. I think instead I'm just going to stay on plan and go for the Reach. So here my choice is primarily between Fighter and Acolyte. I'm really soft on 4s, so I think we'll go for the Fighter. Rally I could be interested in if I had more tokens. Perhaps I should take that one speculatively. I don't think there's more. Direwood Rampager could be the other card that could plausibly get played along with Dispel if I find more forms of fixing. Not a massive fan of the Hellfire Rifle. I think the card that I'm most likely to include in this deck is the Rally if I get the tokens, so we'll run for that. And then the Cabal Recruiter, it's not the most intrinsically aggressive card that I could possibly play, but if I do manage to get in with it, especially if I manage to Rampage, then it's a very powerful card. And now I have a choice between a 2-drop that's brilliant or a 3-drop that's brilliant. Given that I'd rather have more 2-drops than 3, I think I'm leaning towards the Ranger. The reason why that is because I can play 2 2-drops on turn 4, whereas on turn 3, I mean, if I only have a 3-drop, I'm reliant on getting a 1-drop in order to fully saturate my power. So I think we'll go for the Ranger, even though it's probably a slightly worse card. Wow. No one is in time at the moment. Yeah, I don't think I'm playing the Back Alley Glancer at all, so I'll speculatively take this in case I find more fixing. And now we have the choice of whether I want to start going down the token route to make some of the other picks better, or the Sharpshooter. Greninja Drone is just a very good card in general. I don't have issues taking it. I feel as though the Sharpshooter is slightly stronger, but I'm happy to take an extra 1 here. Neither of these are getting played in my deck. That's possibly, no, it's not possibly getting splashed. It's just going to be in the deck as is. And now I get a little bit tempted for if I had been able to splash green, but not too much. Instead, I think in this instance, I just want to guarantee I've got some fixing. I think this comes down to either the Monument, Devour, or the Golem. Golem stays on curve, allows us to keep being nice and aggressive. Devour is useful in that sometimes my 1-drops are going to become redundant. My opponent is going to be able to set up shop and defend, and if that's the case, I can still get some value. Or the Monument is just one of those cards that fulfills the criterion of being good early and good late. It's good early because if you need it to become power, it can do so, and it's good late because once you get to 5 power and this is probably flooding out, then it becomes a creature. It's not the best of the monuments. I definitely think there are better ones, and I feel as though I would rather have the golem for the sake of getting the extra equipment, but it is a good card. Infernus. Free on your first turn, at the end of your turn sacrifice it. That doesn't sound like the kind of value I want in my deck. These two, however, I feel could play a role. If I had more of a sacrifice theme going on, I'd be more interested in the Recogulator. As is, I think I'll just go for the more valuable card. And then here I've got an interesting choice between the Thornbeast and the Katana, but I feel as though the Katana, the fact that it cycles, is more alongside what I want. We could take ourselves a very nice shiny Rapid Shot, get another combat trick, or we could be just trying to shore up our identity and make sure that we have the factional identity right. Before I decide, I want to see just how many creatures I have and whether I feel as though I could do with an extra combat trick. So in our ones, we have 5 very, very good 1-drops, 1 dubious one. The 2s we're shoring up. I prefer to have 1 more playable 2 if possible. As far as combat tricks, I currently already have 3 Rampages and a Rapid Shot, so do I need a 5th combat trick? A 45 card deck, that's representing a very large percentage of my deck. No, I think right now I'd rather have the extra 2. Would I? Although this effectively allows me to trade up with anything. The other thing I'm thinking about is, even though this is fixing my colours for my 2 main colours, it does still make it easier for me to splash 1 additional card because I'm less worried about getting these main colours. So even though it's less sexy, I feel as though this is the right pick. And we've been very, very lucky in getting a perfect top-end card for us in the stash. Execute isn't ideal removal, but it will do, and here we are. I get rewarded at the end by getting myself my 2nd Rapid Shot. It's not the pretty one, but beggars can't be choosers, so I'll take it. Wow, okay. I really didn't have to worry about that choice in retrospect. So this is going to be quite an interesting build. I feel as though we have everything we could have wanted. It's just a case of making sure we have the right numbers of everything. I'm aware that cards like the Outrider are unlikely to see play, but I just want to make sure that all of my options are represented. Okay, so it is dominant red, which is what we're hoping for. It's really important for us to get our fire sigils out and down. As far as our other colors, none of our shadow is a double, and neither of us splash a double, so that's great. It means we're going to be very, very dominant red in this deck. We want our curve to be nice and low because we're basically going as aggressive as possible. I think the game plan for this deck is to stick a 1 or a 2 drop, to be trying to remove whatever blockers, either via combat tricks or relics, and then just trying to stay on the front foot. And so each time they try and stabilize, we can just get up by having a combat trick that's ready to deal with it. If that's the case, I think that this is probably going to be a 17 land deck. Definitely won't have the space to keep both of those time cards. And if we're after 17 sigils, I'll be wanting access to, I think, 2 time, which gives me 15 left to play with. So if I have 7 shadow and 8 fire, that puts me on 17 plus the seek power. That will then give me effectively 9 red sources, 7 purple, 2 time. Well, I am a little bit heavily reliant on making sure that I get my shadow sigils down early. If these were later up the curve, I'd be tempted to go for a more aggressive split. But I'm a little bit too nervous with only 6 shadow sigils in the deck about my ability to get that online. I think I can probably afford to shave a time sigil, as there is only 1 card here. Worst case scenario, I have 1 dead card in my hand, which is going to hurt me a lot less than if I have several dead cards because I haven't been able to get the correct sigils on. If that's the case, we've got 10 cuts we need to make. Looking at my ratios, so I have 20 units and 13 spells and 5 attachments, so I think we'll need to cut down the unit count a little bit. I think the weakest ones I have in my deck, probably the Outrider. I'm happy with the Magus, although it's not at its best in this particular build, but it's still not bad. I'm happy having the Recruiter by virtue of the fact that I have so many Rampages, so I'm confident in my ability to activate the Infiltrate. I like the Thorn Beast. The Rally isn't at its best in this deck. The Life Drinker is one of my few sources of life gain. Execute is not at its best because it needs to kill an exhausted enemy unit, which means it doesn't work against those that have endurance, and it also doesn't work against those that are trying to set up blockers, so that could be something that's on the cutting board. Vulture is okay because I'm quite likely to have a unit in the Void eventually. Pyrodept is probably weak as a 2-drop. Yeah, it's definitely the 2s and 1s where I'm going to be looking to cut. Could I call this a 16 sigil deck? I don't think so. I feel as though because I have 2 cards that mitigate Flood, I'd rather play that safe. I have 7 Combat Drix currently, which I think is a little bit too much. So I feel as though I can probably go down to have 5. 5 represents a whole 9th of my deck, so I'm likely to have 2 in any given match, which is fine by me. The Flails are fine because they're multi-use. The Flame Blast is amazing. Blood Beetle is probably the weakest of my 1-drops. Grenadin Drone is great. Ronin is amazing. Yeah, so we'll drop the Beetle. I'm happy with my 2s. Quick Draw is great the minute I get a piece of equipment on her. They're brilliant. Vulture's probably the weakest of those. An argument could be made that my top end, I'm a little top heavy, that the likelihood of me ever getting to Wellpire Phoenix is low because I'll be hoping to have killed them by then, but I still feel as though I'd like this card to stabilize with. The stash is phenomenal in this deck. So it's 3 more cuts. I feel as though the Magus least plays to my plan. It's just there to be a rattlesnake really, which isn't what I want to be doing. I'd much rather have the fighters exhaust so I can keep getting in damage. Life Drinker is probably on the short list to consider dropping. How do I lose with this deck? I lose basically by my opponents getting too big for me to deal with, and by not being able to trade efficiently. I feel as though if they've gotten too big for me to deal with, then Life Drinker isn't going to help me get back into the game, so it's probably win more in this build. And if I'm cutting my pump spells, I'd rather keep those above that particular weapon. Execute. is going to be a hard one for me to choose to drop if I do choose to drop it, because it is removal, and removal is important, but it's removal in the wrong context. I guess in that respect, I'd rather have a rapid shot. A rapid shot can kill more things, and its condition is on the fact that I have a creature, which is what my deck's trying to do, versus an execute that kills things, but it's on the condition of them having attacked me, which is what my deck's not trying to do. So even though it seems wrong, I think that's the cut I need to make. So this deck has no curve. It's very much 1 and 2 drops, which I'm okay with. I feel as though it's the plan. The only decisions I might need to go and reconsider is whether I want to return to getting an extra rampage or an extra rapid shot at the expense of something else in the deck if I find that I'm struggling to break through. But as it is, I feel as though this is going to be a great opportunity for me to get my aggro on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it can do. So join me in the upcoming video as we try out probably the most aggressive Stonescar deck that I've ever had the privilege of playing. Alright, see you then.